Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Welcome into the Chris Hand Show, 9:06, Wednesday, 9:27. Hope you're having a great morning. I wonder if Joe Biden's waking up today wondering, why did I go to Michigan yesterday? I mean, was him walking the picket line an absolute failure or what? All we're getting out of it is weak memes, and apparently somebody gave him a bullhorn for his audience of 12. It was incredible. I mean, on Tuesday, Joe went and he was the first president in a picket line. He had to show his unity with members of the UAW who are striking against General Motors. The president, though, he never brought up all of his electric vehicle mandates that are, partly responsible for the strike. He didn't bring up the fact that he's been against the internal combustion engine since day one, and that's partly part of the problem why we're here. Yeah, weird. Breitbart took their take on it. They said during his 12-minute visit with UAW members in Wayne County, Biden spoke for only 87 seconds and did not mention his electric vehicle agenda or even attempt to sell it as a bonus for auto workers. Probably because it's not a bonus. Biden left the strike to jet off to California for fundraisers with wealthy donors. Classic. The man that pushes electric vehicles, he showed up with quite the carbon footprint, 12 vehicles in tow. It was like a vehicle for every member of the UAW strikers that were there with him. And he got side-eyed the entire time. I can't help but think that the Biden administration must look at this as an absolute mistake, because today we're going to see Donald Trump visit UAW, and I can only imagine it's going to be a much different reaction. Whereas Biden is walking around the picket line with 12 UAW members and having a bullhorn and fighting the power, nobody really cared that he was there. And in fact, the people that were there just kind of gave him dirty looks the whole time. Kind of felt like they were forced to be there. They looked like hostages. They did. I felt bad for them.
Being held captive or something.
Yeah, it's like they were being held hostage by Joe Biden and the Secret Service. They probably had to go through an extensive background check to be able to stand there and be held captive. It was just probably an entirely awkward process. Ugh. And today we're going to see Donald Trump go there, which the other part is Biden's whole visit to Michigan was absolutely reactionary in the fact that Donald Trump said he was going there to counter the GOP debate tonight before Biden announced his visit. So Biden goes there. It's lackluster at best. At best, it's lackluster. At worst, it's an absolute total failure. And I tend to lean towards the latter. And Trump is going to go there tonight. And they, the UAW president has put out strong words against Trump, saying he's for the billionaire class. That okay, cool. But we're going to see how the workers feel about Trump when he goes to visit them today. And again, I can imagine it's going to be more than 12. And I can also imagine that his reception will be a lot different. Also tonight, the GOP debate, the second GOP debate. Oh my gosh, are you excited for the second GOP debate? And the crowd goes mild. I mean, I don't think anybody's excited about the second GOP debate. I'll watch it. I'll watch it because I'm a glutton for punishment. But even like the last GOP debate, I was excited to see what Vivek Ramaswamy was going to do. And he seemed like he was taking off like a rocket ship. And me and Mac have talked about this off the air. Since then, the jets have cooled on Vivek.
Dude, that's nuts to think about. Where I didn't even put that in perspective at the last debate. We were like, oh, Vivek, this is going to be a huge night for him. And wow.
Does anybody even talk about him anymore?
No.
We don't even get texts about Vivek. Seriously. It's like crazy. Everybody kind of found out his backstory with Big Pharma and the COVID pandemic. Everybody kind of found out, his old tweets where he was really, crapping on DeSantis and the Don't Say Gay bill. He called it, why don't we wait until 8? That's what he tweeted out. And like these are more recent tweets. There was audio of him not 6 months ago saying, climate change is real. And then he's on the stage saying climate change is fake. Which is it, man? So it seems like the Jets have cooled on Vivek completely. So the guy that we were excited to see on the GOP debate, nobody really cares about anymore. It's really weird. That was a meteoric rise and an even quicker fall. 7467 texted and said, he's a commie. Yeah, maybe. 9716 said, Vivek is a con man that found a niche lane that he could use to get into power. Yeah, well, he didn't use it very well because nobody cares about him anymore.
It's short-lived, yeah.
So now, what do we have to look for tonight? Nikki Haley pledging more money to Ukraine and defending Forever Wars. Ron DeSantis and his fake meatball smile. Like, what else do we have to look forward to? I'm actually looking forward to Chris Christie the most. I don't think he has any chance of winning, but at least I expect some zingers out of the big man. I do.
He's entertaining.
The ChatGPT line against Vivek.
Was that the nail in the coffin for Ramaswamy?
That may have been the nail in the coffin for Ramaswamy. But it's getting even worse for this GOP debate. So advertisers during the first Republican presidential debate on Fox News paid a premium, okay? So like for the first debate, a 30-second commercial cost $495,000.
Wow.
For 30 seconds. I mean, that's not Super Bowl money, right?
No.
But,
still, that's a pretty penny.
That's like, conference finals.
I was about to say, yeah, it's a nice bowl game. Yeah.
That same 30-second spot tonight, do you know how much it's going for?
Oh, gosh, is it half?
Even less, $200K.
Oh, man.
I don't know. Do some napkin math for me. What's that, 60% off?
Yeah.
Yikes. Ooh. Go ahead and hit the sound effect because that kind of an advertising drop can only mean one thing.
Because we're Fox News and we suck.
Another ad buyer didn't share the ad rates for the running first debate, but he confirmed that Fox 30-second ads during and immediately after the Fox was charging $225,000 for 30 seconds ads after the broadcast and $125,000 for 30-second spots right before it. So those prices are dropping as well. There was plenty of incentives during the first contest. The 2020 presidential ABC debate charged $375K for a 30-second spot. And it was first time for a lot of the audience to see a lot of these candidates. And now that we've seen them and it's been a collective meh, just seems like nobody cares.
How much would those spots be if Donald Trump was debating?
Oh, Super Bowl money, baby.
Yeah.
Big time.
That's crazy.
But Donald Trump doesn't need to debate. He's leading in every poll head to head. He's going to go do his counter programming tonight. And just yesterday or the day before, Fox News was covering Trump's rally in South Carolina, and he started bringing up the Tucker Carlson interview, which is what happened during the first debate, and Fox News cut away. Fox News has been completely embarrassed through a lot of this stuff. They really have. DeSantis, he's falling so hard as well. He can't get any momentum behind him. The last poll I saw had Chris Christie in front of him in New Hampshire.
Oh, ow.
Yikes, bro. Good governor. Go back to governing in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
Good governor.
Could have waited.
He should have waited. Why did he do that? Like, he's a young guy, and he got too eager, and he ruined his entire presidential candidacy. Had he just waited, he would have been the clear-cut favorite for 28. Clear-cut. Easy. But, this is where we're at. A lot of people are commenting on Vivek Ramaswamy. 9751 said, mistake Swami is history. Told you early.
I saw someone say, I can't find it anymore, but Ramaswampy.
Ramaswampy.
I
Yep,
like
that's
that.
a good one.
I
That's
like
a good
that.
one. Nick said, watching the GOP debate is just like filling up a car full of gas that's already broke down. There's no point.
Yeah, you're not going anywhere.
There is no point. I can only imagine that the ratings aren't going to be good when they come out. But there's other news as well. We also are now hearing that Joe Biden and Hunter received $250,000 in Chinese wires, and Hunter used the Delaware address as the home in Delaware as the beneficiary address. So this has been being reported. James Comer just dropped this last night. And everybody says, oh, you know, what can we learn from the impeachment inquiry? Well, I guess we're going to learn a lot more. So Tuesday was revealed by House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer that Hunter had received wires for more than $250K from China during the summer of 2019. And that listed the Delaware home of Joe Biden as the address for the money. You know, which took me right back to the debate. And it reminded me of this. You got me on audio. Do you remember this from the debate?
My son has not made money in terms of this thing about, what are you talking about, China?
Well, it turns out that not only did he make money, but it was 2019, right around the same time as that debate, that Hunter listed the address of the Delaware home of Joe Biden as the beneficiary address for that money. This, according to Fox News, is part of Comer's investigation into the Biden family business dealings. He has subpoenaed financial records related to a specific bank account and received in return the record of 2 wires that originated in Beijing. These wires were linked to BHR Partners, a joint venture between Hunter Biden's Rosemont Seneca and the Chinese investment firm Bohai Capital. Hunter Biden sat down on the board of BHR Partners, which is a Beijing-backed private equity firm controlled by the Bank of China, just like everything in China is controlled by China. The first wire was on my birthday in 2019. July 26th, it was sent to Hunter Biden by Miss Wang Jin and was the amount of $10,000. Fox News noted that Wang Jin is listed on the website for BHR Partners, but currently is unclear if this is the same person. Second wire for $250K was sent on August 2nd, 2019 by Li Jing Shang, also known as BHR Partners CEO Jonathan Lee and Miss Tan Ling. Miss Tan Ling. The committee is trying to identify Ling's role. Robert Hunter Biden is listed as the beneficiary for these wires, listing that 1209 Barley Mill Road as the address, which, of course, is the main residence of the Joe Biden in Wilmington, Delaware. So I have a lot of thoughts on this. First and foremost, isn't that the same house where they had all those top secret documents? Weird. I mean, where do we go from this? Hopefully, they impeach him. Hopefully. But let's be realistic. All they ever do is talk. So they say they will do something, but then you know what they do? They just wait for the next big thing or crisis, so that way everyone forgets. So the question isn't if they will impeach him. To me, the question right now is what will the big new distraction be? And we see them coming out against Trump now saying, you know, all the headlines, oh, it's fraud. He lied about his net worth. And to that I say, you guys have been after him for how long? You're going to bring up new charges? I just feel like if they had anything real on Trump, they would have brought it up in 16, 17, maybe even 18. Everything else feels fabricated to me. And just because it's happening now doesn't mean it's real. In fact, I would argue that could be the big new distraction. I mean, they might actually take down Biden and just run Gavin as his replacement. And Gavin Newsom may honestly have a better chance than Trump anyway. But at this point, with all of the new evidence coming out, I can't find it realistic that Joe Biden is going to be the nominee in 24. I have some thoughts on who might be the nominee in 24. Hillary Clinton, Gavin Newsom, Michelle Obama. Could be anybody. But I have two thoughts. It's not going to be Joe. And it's absolutely not going to be Kamala Harris, even though she's the best female vice president we've ever had. So we'll see what happens. Not 5993 texted in, said, stop supporting Newsom. Do I sound like I'm supporting Newsom?
What?
The greasy used car salesman that's ruined California? Do I sound? I apologize if I sounded like I was supporting Gavin Newsom.
Exposed.
I know. Oh my gosh, that's not something I want to do. 922 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
The U.S. soldier who ran away on his own volition to North Korea a couple of months ago. We'll tell you where he's at coming up at 9:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. It is 9:28 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Got a text from my friend Tim. He said, I think it's still a stretch to call Kamala the best female vice president we've ever had. So maybe she's not the best female vice president we've ever had. Maybe it's a stretch.
Yeah, maybe that's just a little bit of a hyperbole.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Could be.
Jury's out.
So we were talking about Joe Biden. He's got money coming into his home address from China. I don't think he's going to be the nominee in 24. Gary in Greenbrier, you have a thought on the Democratic ticket. Who do you think is going to be the nominee in 24, Gary?
It's going to be Michelle Obama, and Newsom is the ticket.
Okay, what makes you think that?
Well, it's a perfect setting. You've got Michelle Obama. That'll help bring in transgender and LGBTQ and all that, because that all really started behind the scenes with Obama. And then you got Newsom, who's the progressive movement, solidify that base. I mean, they get so many of those people that have started to turn red states a bit bluish, and you don't know how many of them are going to still vote Democrat. You got the powers to be that are going to throw in all kinds of money to make sure of that, and of course they get rid of the problem.
Interesting.
You get rid of Biden, you get rid of Harris.
Yeah, that is the big problem. Thanks for the call, Gary. I appreciate it. He said the transgender LGBT stuff started behind Michelle, and I'm waiting for a slew of Big Mike texts on the super text line. But I think the point is that when gay marriage was legalized, you had a lot of nonprofits that had been fighting for the legalization of gay marriage that all of a sudden had nothing to aim at, right? And you had all of this donor money coming in, and this is the slippery slope in full effect, right? Gay marriage is legalized, but they don't want to lose their $250K CEO job at a nonprofit taking donations for the fight for equal rights. So what that did was create a pivot in the LGBT movement to go away from the LGB and focus on the T, which was the next marginalized group. So, yes, I see all of your Big Mike texts, and I understand that that's the running gag. But I think the point is that once gay marriage was legalized in the Obama administration, all of those nonprofits had to pivot to something else, or they were going to lose their cushy, high-paying nonprofit jobs. So they went to the next current thing. It's 9:31 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Ken Weaver's got the news.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top story. Some of us under more of a risk than others for an isolated shower or thunderstorm today, especially north of I-40. Full forecast in 2 minutes. U.S. soldier Travis King is in U.S. custody after North Korea announced they were expelling him. King ran across the DMZ a couple of months ago while on his way to being shipped out to Fort Bliss to serve the rest of a prison sentence for assault in South Korea. Government spending showdown. Rachel Scott asking Speaker Kevin McCarthy about rejecting a bipartisan Senate stopgap measure to avoid a shutdown.
Is it the wrong move for that deal from the Senate to include additional funding for Ukraine?
Yes. Yes, it is wrong. They're picking Ukraine over Americans.
Yeah, the Senate version includes $6 billion more for Ukraine, while there's nothing for the crisis at the southern border. And poor judgment by Canada's Speaker of the House, Anthony Rota.
I must step down as your Speaker.
Canadian lawmakers had given 98-year-old Yaroslav Honka a standing ovation. Turns out that he was a member of a Nazi SS division in Ukraine. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. What's one of the biggest mistakes that I find that investors make? Well, it's typically buying based on past performance. We look at our 401k, we try to decide which fund should I buy, and tend to look at historical past performance over 3, 5, and you even hear investment advisors telling people to look at 3, 5, and 10-year track records. Problem is that what do markets do? They go up and they go down. Well, where did this have a great past performance? Here to here. So we end up buying high. We found that there was one study back in 1986, and it was called the Brinson-Hooden-Biebauer study. And they were looking at what drove investment returns more than anything else. And the study sort of looked like this. They said, stock selection, about 4% of investment differences were due to stock selection. About 2% was due to market timing differences. Asset mix, asset allocation, that was the big deal. Now, what they found, which was fascinating, was that when the pension plans engaged in these two activities, in one study it showed that 100% of the time, investment returns were lower and it increased risk. Not something you want when you're an investor. So this is something that we teach investors to help them sidestep some of these issues. Now, if you want to learn more about our approach to investing in financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call. Or you can call 615-851-1950.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN 938. My name is Chris Hand. Make sure you follow me off the air. Twitter, Instagram, Truth Social, all of them are at Chris Hand on air. Hit the follow button. I will follow back. As long as you don't look like one of those Russian bots. You know how I feel about Russia. Russia! Can't do that. You know who is going to be running for president? It doesn't feel like it's going to be Joe Biden. Especially, the House Oversight Committee has released new information that Hunter Biden received over $250K in Chinese wires that had Joe Biden's Delaware home as the beneficiary address. Yes, the same home that his Corvette was in a locked garage with classified documents. These wires were sent during a period of time in 2017 and 2018 and 2019. Although it's being said it's unclear whether Hunter Biden was living there at the time of the transfers. And I would just say if he wasn't living there, it's even more suspicious. Just sketchy stuff. There's so much sketchy stuff around the Bidens. Biden kept claiming on the campaign trail, I never discussed with my son or my brother or anyone else anything having to do with their business. Well, 10% for the big guy, right? Bank records don't lie, but President Joe Biden does, James Comer told Fox News. In 2020, Joe Biden told Americans that his family never received money from China. We've already proved that to be a lie earlier this year. And now we know that two wires originating from Beijing listed Joe Biden's Wilmington home as the beneficiary address when he was running for president of the United States. I played this a second ago, but I'll play it again from the 2019 debates.
My son has not made money in terms of this thing about, what are you talking about, China.
We need to get a Maury sound effect on the hotkeys. So, like, the lie detector determined that was a lie. James Comer went on. He said Joe Biden's abuse of public office for his family's financial gain threatens our national security. And he's absolutely right. Do you feel like he is beholden to China? It certainly seems that way to me. What did the Bidens do with this money from Beijing? Americans demand and deserve accountability for President Biden, the first family's corruption. The Oversight Committee, along with the Judiciary Ways and Means Committees, will continue to follow the evidence and the money to provide transparency and accountability. What will come of this? I don't know, probably nothing. They might actually take down Joe Biden and just run Gavin Newsom as his replacement, like I said. And I'll agree, Gavin Newsom probably has a better chance against Joe Biden. A better chance to win against Trump than Joe Biden. I had a super texter text in. He said, about Gavin Newsom, John in Lawrenceburg said, if Newsom runs for president, as he is heard and known, he will scare the country to death. Californians know him, but the vast majority of America doesn't realize who and what he is. He will not be embraced as he is exposed. And I think he might be right. I think John in Lawrenceburg might be right. Maybe Gavin Newsom isn't the guy for the job. It was just Saturday that Gavin Newsom signed into law SB 407 in California. What is this SB 407? Well, I'll tell you. SB 407 directs California's Department of Social Services to amend the process by which foster parents are vetted and require applicants to demonstrate an ability and willingness to meet the needs of a child, regardless of the child's sexual orientation, gender identity, or gender expression as specified. The law also requires local counties to develop caregiver training to support children of all races, ethnic groups, identifications, ancestries, national origins, colors, religions, sexes, sexual orientations, gender identities, mental or physical disabilities, or HIV statuses in foster care. SB 407 claims that the LGBTQ plus children are overrepresented in foster care throughout California, and the bill declares that youth have a right to be placed in a home according to their gender identity, and that they have the right to access caregivers who have received cultural competency and sensitivity training relating to sexual orientation. This is what the guy's doing in California. The law mirrors similar policies adopted in Oregon that requires caregivers to support and accept a foster child's gender identity or sexual orientation. I don't think that that's okay. I don't think it's okay to let a kid make their lifetime decision when they're still very young. Very young. We wouldn't let them get a tattoo or smoke, but we can let them, have a irreversible medical procedure. That just seems wrong, and that's the kind of stuff that Gavin Newsom supports. So if it's not Gavin Newsom, who is it? Well, there's a lot of chatter from Biden allies about replacing Kamala Harris as the VP. And the reason being, if they replace her, maybe they can just run Biden again. Because then whoever's the VP will take over. With Kamala Harris waiting in the wings, it doesn't feel like anybody's too confident that Joe Biden will make it to 2024, because nobody wants Kamala Harris president, because nobody's confident that Joe Biden will finish out his term if he becomes president again. But we're seeing all this action, money wires, transfers coming in, $250K from China. The beneficiary address is Joe Biden's home. Will there be a conviction in the Senate if this goes to an impeachment hearing? Who knows? Will the Republicans drag this out for an entire election year coming up? Well, absolutely. Absolutely, this will be dragged out. And the news, of course, will just hand wave it away. They'll say, "Oh, I guess they have to have Joe Biden." If the news was going to cover this in any realistic fashion and give any of this real credibility, they would have to have a video of Joe Biden taking a bribe and on video saying, looking at the camera and saying, this bribe is for illegal acts. And even then, the corrupt Mockingbird news media would probably say that it was just a joke. I mean, there's literally mountains of evidence and information relating to Biden influence peddling scandal and the Department of Justice cover-ups, but it's going to just continue to trickle into the public consciousness until Biden can no longer run in 24. I don't think there's going to be legal action, but I think that there's going to be a point where it becomes critical mass with people hearing so much information about the Biden crime family that he can no longer run in 2024. So then where do we go from there? Who do the Democrats run from there? Well, Jack Posobiec thinks that we have a shadow primary going on right now in America.
But now all of a sudden, Gavin Newsom is everywhere. And it almost seems like Gavin Newsom and Hillary Clinton have embarked on some sort of shadow primary against Joe Biden. You could see them sort of sniping at each other in these competing interviews. She does an interview with Jen Psaki, who Jen Psaki, of course, was a former Clinton staffer before she was ever a Biden staffer. And then Ron DeSantis comes out of nowhere saying he's actually agreeing to the debate with Newsom, which originally had been put on ice.
And there we are. It's a shadow primary. And the DeSantis Newsom debate that's going to be happening November 30th is something that I'm keeping an eye on. It just feels weird. It really does. It seems like they're trying to take Trump out of the race, and if they do take Trump out of the race, which I don't think is honestly realistic, but it definitely seems like they're going to do their due diligence to try to take him off ballots in several states. And if they do that, if he becomes unrunnable, DeSantis would have to be the nominee. If Joe Biden becomes unrunnable, does that mean that Newsom has to be the nominee? It seems like they're positioning themselves for that. The fact that they're going to debate each other makes them both seem like in their own minds, they're qualified candidates in their own minds. I don't think either of them are qualified candidates. And if Trump is eliminated from ballots, I don't think anybody is really going to be jumping up and down to support Ron DeSantis from the Trump base. For me, I feel like I'm out on Ron DeSantis. I've been out on Ron DeSantis since I started this show. I think that he was built in a lab, and he feels like a continuation of the Bush policies. He feels like George or Jeb to me, and I'm not with that. Gavin Newsom, on the other hand, he's an absolute loser too. He's ruining California. He said 10 years ago that he has a plan to eliminate homelessness in California. That plan failed. The plan failed. He's a failure as a governor. But that doesn't mean they're not going to try to run him. I mean, look at who we have in office right now. Being a failure has never stopped the Democrat Party from getting behind you and supporting you. So maybe it is Newsom. It certainly seems like those two guys, DeSantis and Newsom, maybe they know something we don't. Why else would they sign up for a debate where it could hurt one of their political careers with no actual benefit? It's interesting. something to keep an eye on. And then Hillary, I mean, she still thinks it's her turn. She's going on Rachel Maddow. She's going on Jen Psaki. She's playing the hits. She's talking about Russia and disinformation and, it's a threat to our democracy. So, of course, I could see her throwing her hat in the ring. Michelle Obama, I don't think is actually realistic. I don't. And I know Andy Ogles has said that he expects Michelle Obama to run. I don't know. I just don't see Michelle Obama being somebody that the Democrat Party puts up to run. Because even though it's her husband, you could still point at Obama's record. You could point at Biden's record. I mean, she would have to stomach all the bad from Obama and Biden, whereas Hillary could still kind of run off of Bill and try to be a middle of the ground candidate. I don't see either of them as realistic candidates. But there are other people in the Democrat Party that want to be running too. The guy Dean Phillips, he keeps popping up in the news. He says he refuses to rule out a Biden primary challenge. This is according to Axios. Dean Phillips was on a podcast Monday, and he said that he's considering challenging President Biden for the Democratic nominee. Dean Phillips is a Democrat out of Minnesota who also sounds like Darren from Bewitched, if you've remembered some of his audio. And as soon as the Biden stuff started coming out, he started circling like a shark with blood in the water. He's been eyeballing that for a while. Dean Phillips, could he be? I could see a Hillary Clinton Dean Phillips ticket. I feel like that seems realistic. But I don't know if Michelle Obama is a realistic candidate. I don't know if Gavin Newsom is a realistic candidate. Because again, they have records that they would have to defend. Gavin Newsom, are you going to defend all of your children gender identity policies? Are you going to defend threatening school districts in Chino Valley, California, for not wanting to teach little kids about gender orientation? Are you going to defend the fact that you threatened to fine them? I mean, these are real issues that he would have to deal with. I don't think that he's going to be a good candidate for the entire country to get behind. Hillary Clinton, Dean Phillips, though, seems more middle of the road. Seems like that could sway independent voters. What do you think? 615-737-9986. 1711 texted in. He said, what turned me off to DeSantis was during the debate, he would constantly allude to his time in the military as if he was kicking in the doors with the SEALs when he was a JAG. Yeah, all right. He seemed weird at the debate. You know, when they said, who's willing to pardon Donald Trump if he's convicted? He looked left and he looked right before he raised his hand. He seems like he sticks his finger up in the air to see which ways the wind is blowing and then jumps on that movement. At least that's my opinion on him. JT says we need a grassroots movement to stop the only the wealthy can run system in this country. Really great folks are never running because of money. Yep, that's always a barrier. It's always a hurdle to get over. But, I mean, capitalism, am I right? 9:52 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, it's Chris Hand from my friends at Paul Winkler, Inc. If you've been meaning to talk to somebody at Paul's team and you haven't done it yet, well, tomorrow's going to be a great opportunity for you because I'm going to be broadcasting my entire show live out of Paul Winkler's office in Goodlettsville. So stop by, say hi to us, and meet Paul and his team. Now, I'm a husband and a father to 4, so financial stability is a big priority for myself and my wife, and we didn't really have a plan. Luckily, we got linked up with Paul, and we are so happy we did. Now, Paul and his team hold themselves to a higher level of fiduciary standard than is required, and because of that, government regulators require that I tell you I'm paid every time this commercial airs. And I am. That's the truth. But it's because I got to sit down with Paul, have my financial questions answered honestly, that I decided to become a client myself, and I've been impressed. Paul's a smart guy. He knows the financial world better than I do. And with his team, they don't do anything on commission, which means when they tell you what decisions to make, they're helping you make decisions for your family, not theirs, because nothing is done on commission. That's why I trust them. Plus, they're all about education, and their investment education is evidence-based and backed by Nobel Prize-winning research. You should check these guys out. If you haven't yet, tomorrow's going to be a great day while we broadcast live from Paul's office in Goodlettsville. Every office, though, if you can't make it out to Goodlettsville, every office is run by a degreed planner with over 20 years of experience. And you can set up a complimentary 15-minute phone call right now on his website, paulwinkler.com. That's paulwinkler.com, or call 615-851-1950.
Not good. Not good. Got the right 3 lanes blocked. 40 westbound at Spence Lane. That is going to be just east of downtown. That is backing up rapidly. Already a 15-minute delay. Millions of Korean-made cars are under recall. We've got news on the whereabouts of the U.S. soldier who ran across the DMZ to North Korea this summer. The Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy, says the U.S. Senate spending bill to avert a government shutdown ignores the safety of U.S. citizens. These stories and more coming up at 10 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. I'm not going to lie, man. When you opened up with not good, not good, not good, me and Mac looked at each other. We were scared.
We were. I was like, oh no, what's going on?
We didn't know what was happening.
Sorry,
I got so scared.
Oh my gosh.
All right, well, I don't even know what to say. I was terrified. We were talking about who you want, who the Democrats are going to run if it's not Joe Biden. I'm so thrown off by Ken Weaver saying things are not good.
Speaking of Biden,
but a lot of people. Somebody said, I don't even know. Ken threw me way off. Ken threw me way off. It's not good, you guys. It's not good. It's not good. Our democracy is not good. Oh, here it is. Somebody said, I think they should run Hunter Biden with Menendez as VP. Absolutely based. 10 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Ken Weaver's got the news, and spoiler alert, it's not good, you guys. It's not good.
Ken Weaver with your top stories. Some of us under more risk of severe weather today than others, especially north of I-40. We'll tell you about it during the full forecast in 2 minutes. And big trouble for owners of some Korean cars. Here's Mike Dubusky.
3.3 million Hyundais and Kias are being recalled over concerns they could burst into flames. The companies say leaking brake fluid could cause an electrical short, which could spark a fire even if the vehicle is parked. The recall encompasses 25 separate models in total, including Hyundai Elantras and Santa Fe's, as well as Kia Sportages and Optimas. The companies say dealers will fix the issue free of charge. In the meantime, owners are being advised to park their cars outside and away from structures.
And speaking of Korea, Marcus Moore with the surprising announcement this morning regarding a U.S. soldier.
U.S. officials are confirming this morning that American soldier Travis King has been released from North Korean custody. This development happening overnight. A spokesperson with the Pentagon releasing a statement confirming what has happened and also saying that they appreciate the hard work of the personnel in the Army, the United States Forces of Korea, as well as the Department of Defense.
Yeah, King crossed into North Korea this summer on his own volition while in the process of being shipped back to the U.S. to serve a prison sentence for assault in South Korea. And House Speaker Kevin McCarthy trying to prevent a partial government shutdown by passing a continuing resolution, insisting it must include border security and calling on President Biden to help get it done.
He should finish where the wall is at. He should have remain in Mexico. He's got the Title 42 as well, to be able to secure the border and stop moving everybody across illegally.
McCarthy says he does not see the support in the House for this bipartisan Senate stopgap measure because there's no money for the southern border crisis, but there's billions for Ukraine. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
You are your record. And our record in this country right now is $33 trillion in debt, facing $2 trillion annual deficits. We're in so much debt. We're driving up deficits so fast. We are devaluing American money so rapidly that in America today, you can't even bribe Democrat senators with cash alone. You need to bring gold bars to get the job done, just so that the bribes hold value.
It's the truth. You got to bribe them with gold now. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN 10:06. My name is Chris Hand. That was Matt Gaetz alluding to our friend Bob Menendez. Bob Menendez, who everybody wants to resign. Everybody wants Bob to resign. Step down, Bob. You know, Bob has been indicted on bribery charges. It's unbelievable. They said that he's been enriching businessmen in New Jersey through him and his wife and using their influence to help the Egyptian government. Interesting, right? Well, Senator Bob Menendez has refused to resign. He even says he's going to run for re-election. Classic Democrats, right? Democrats, man, every time. But he's got a new statement out, and he says this is only happening to him because he's a Latino American. Literally. That's what he's saying. He said in a statement, those behind this campaign simply cannot accept the fact that a first-generation Latin American from humble beginnings could rise to be a U.S. senator. No, sir. No, has nothing to do with you being Latino. It has to do with the gold bars and the influence peddling. So.
Oh, that's what people have a problem with. Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, it's not the Latino stuff.
Wow.
I didn't even know he was Latino.
Had no clue.
Like, I know his name is Menendez, but he doesn't look like one of the Latinx, as the Democrats say. Does he look Latinx to you?
Not giving Latinx, no.
No, he doesn't have Latinx vibes. He doesn't. But Menendez went on. He said, I've been falsely accused before because I refused to back down to the powers that be. And the people of New Jersey were able to see through the smoke and mirrors and recognize I was innocent. Well, hard pass, Bob. Hard pass. And everybody's calling on Bob to resign. They're saying that his dirty cash is being spent everywhere. This is from Breitbart. Bob Menendez, New Jersey Democrat, said that corrupt senator spreads his dirty cash everywhere. Senator Bob Menendez's dirty political donations have contaminated the entire Democrat Party. Weird. This is from Breitbart. And possibly its hopes of retaining control of the Senate following the bribery charges for allegedly sharing information with Egypt in exchange for cash and gold bars. So they have a list of people that Bob Menendez has been spending his mattress cash on. Menendez, who authorities indicted on 3 counts of conspiracy, he was the chair of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee before stepping down on Friday after Friday's indictment. The chair of the Foreign Relations Committee is a powerful position that commands political clout and the ability to raise and distribute coveted campaign donations throughout the Democrat caucus. From 2017 through 2022, Menendez's campaign committee raised over $16.5 million and saved nearly $6 million as cash on hand, according to Open Secrets based on FEC filings. Now, in the 2022 midterm cycle, Menendez's campaign committee and leadership PAC expenditures totaled about $1.5 million. He spent about 16% of the money on contributions, $229K, right around there, Open Secrets reported. And much of the money that Menendez gave to Democrat Senate allies, some of whom would plan to return it in $100 bills, a denomination Menendez allegedly stashed in his home, totaling $500K. So we're in the process. This is what spokesman for Senator John Fetterman said. We're in the process of returning money in envelopes stuffed with $100 bills. Menendez gave Fetterman $5,000 towards his Senate campaign. And Fetterman is just one Democrat senator who received political donations from Menendez's PAC. Below, this listed now are 9 of the top Democrats who received money from Menendez's campaign, okay, in the 2022 cycle. Senator Maggie Hassan, a Democrat in New Hampshire. Senator Mark Kelly, a Democrat in Arizona. They're all Democrats. Senator Tammy Baldwin from Illinois. Senator Ron Wyden from Oregon. Senator Christian Gillibrand from New York. Senator Catherine Cortez Masto from Nevada. Senator Alex Padilla from California. Senator Michael Bennett from Colorado. And, here's a good one. Senator Raphael Warnock from Georgia. Menendez is already in gear for the 2024 election cycle, and according to campaign finance disclosures, Menendez's new Millennium PAC gave Senate Democrat large donations, including Joe Manchin, Bob Casey, Tim Kaine, and John Tester. In addition to these individual campaigns, Menendez's PAC gave money to Democrat organizations that donate to Democrat candidates. So he's spreading this dirty money all around the Democrat Party. It's absolutely no wonder why all the Democrats are asking him to step down, and they are. All these Democrats are asking him to step down. I mean, Fetterman's calling him to step down. You got Bob Casey and John Tester trying to ask him to step down. You got Pelosi jumping in there saying step down. Cory Booker is calling Bob Menendez to step down. Democrat Rep Beyer is saying we need a stronger response and need to deal with this. Well, they're all worried that they're going to be implicated. That's got to be what it is. Democrats usually look out for their own unless they're about to get rolled over by a bus, right? Seems to be the Democrat way. And now they're all throwing Menendez under the bus before he can do it for them. Menendez, though, he will stand strong. He will. He refuses to resign. Refuses. But something weird happened last night. It was pretty weird. Menendez's doctor got raided in Florida. It's interesting.
We are right outside of the Vitreoretinal Consultants Eye Center here in West Palm Beach, which belongs to Dr. Salomon Melgen. According to the Miami Herald, Melgen owes the IRS millions of dollars, despite the fact that he donated hundreds of thousands to several politicians. FBI agents came here late last night and worked into the morning, searching through the office and taking away potential evidence. According to the Miami Herald, Dr. Melgen has an outstanding lien of more than $11 million to the IRS. But the report shows Melgen also donated hundreds of thousands of dollars to politicians. The doctor is also accused of providing Senator Bob Menendez of New Jersey with underage prostitutes while on free trips to the Dominican Republic. Now, FBI agents at the scene overnight did not talk to any reporters, but we will be sure to check in with them later on this morning and today on this developing story. For ABC Action News, I'm Katie Johnson.
Weird. Not paying your taxes? Underage hookers? Weird. Just Democrat things. Just Democrat things. I also think it's weird to say like underage prostitutes. Like no, it's a child sex slave. It's not an underage prostitute. It's a child sex slave, Bob. And these accusations have been around with Menendez for a while, since 2017. In fact, accusations about underage, of course they're underage, child sex slaves have been around with a lot of Democrats for a long time. For a long time. What do they say in high school? When a rumor doesn't go away, it's probably because it's true. Weird. I don't know if this is true. I just think it's interesting. Renee K said, the new Epstein. I don't know. I don't know if we want to give old Bob, that much credit. Epstein was running a honeypot, and it's just awful though. It just seems like this stuff always comes up with Democrats. Bob Menendez should step down. He should step down immediately. But he's going to claim that he's being targeted by the DOJ because he's Hispanic. He's going to, just prey on people's emotions. I can't believe they're doing this to me. It's because I'm Hispanic. No, you're just a slime ball. You're taking money from foreign governments. You're peddling influence, and you have child sex slaves. Weird. Allegedly.
3354 says, who does he think he is? Bill Clinton?
Yo, seriously. When are we going to get the Epstein flight logs? Here's the thing. These people are never held accountable for any of this stuff. Never. They're never held accountable for this kind of stuff. And these accusations come up all the time. And I don't care what party you belong to. If you were accused of this, we need an actual investigation. You need to be actually held accountable for these crimes. I'm still waiting for the Epstein flight logs. I'm still waiting for, anybody besides Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein to be charged for this. Is anybody going to be charged for this? No, they won't. They won't.
94.95, underage prostitute, immigrant. It's just words, right?
Yeah. Yep. And that's what the left does. The left tries to manipulate language to make it look better than it is. Underage prostitute. No. You can't be an underage prostitute. You can't. You can't consent if you're underage. You're a child sex slave. Anthony texted in and said, wonder if his name came up in the Maxwell testimony. I did try and find some stuff last night. I tried to Google around, see what I could find. Of course, you can't find any of that stuff on the internet. It's all buried. And everything I found was from 2017, and they're saying that they're false accusations. But it was the San Diego Union Tribune that published it in 2017. Senator Robert Menendez may have had sex with underage hookers in the Dominican Republic, prosecutors say. 2017. This is why Pizzagate rumors never go away. This is why. Because there's never a thorough investigation, and these things don't go away. The allegations just stay there floating in space. The lawyers in the original investigation about the child sex slaves in the Dominican Republic say their investigation resulted from corroborated allegations that defendants Menendez and Melgen had sex with the child sex slaves in the Dominican Republic. Menendez's camp said that the Justice Department is using a smear tactic designed to use the exchange of motions to dump dirt on the senator. Okay. A Menendez spokesperson said about the 2017 charges, this is a news article from 2017. The filing today shows that the Department of Justice tried to make up for weak allegations about the public corruption by soliciting allegations about sex. They continue that refrain now that with new salacious allegations, again, having nothing to do with the actual charges in the case. There's not one interview, paper, email, or grand jury witness, not a shred of any evidence that says Senator Menendez was involved in any prostitution, let alone underage women, period, and the government knows it. But many of these young women received substantial financial support from the defendant Melgen, prosecutors said. Melgen flew 2 strippers he met at South Florida Gentlemen's Club to his villa after paying them a combined $3,000. A pilot described a series of young girls who looked like escorts on Melgen's plane. Some of the young women who received substantial amounts of money from the defendant were in the same place as the defendant Menendez at the same times. Must be a coincidence, right? Prosecutors say that when the allegations about hookers surfaced, and they use the language hookers, no, child sex slaves, Menendez lied, making the demonstrably false claim that he'd only flown on Melgen's plane 3 times. Menendez's defense complained the prosecutors flooded the grand jury proceedings with inflammatory questions regarding sexual relationships, affairs, lavish gifts, which are unrelated to the charges he faced. I think we can all agree Bob Menendez is an absolute slimeball. And again, if these accusations don't go away, if the rumors don't go away, it's probably because it's true. Roberta Miller says, Roberta texted and she said, the reason why sex trafficking is so rampant is because too many politicians are involved. I always said that, when we don't get the Epstein flight logs, we don't get the client list, it's not because of the victims, it's because of the customers. It's because of the customers. I don't know. I got little kids. This stuff really gets on my nerves. Like, is there nothing that we can agree on? Does this have to be political? Like, if you have crimes against children, straight to jail. And that's being kind. I think you deserve a lot worse. And Bob Menendez, man, absolute slime ball. Absolute slime ball. They're child sex slaves. They're not underage prostitutes. It's not statutory rape. It's actual rape. Language matters. And the left will continue to try and manipulate it to make things seem not as bad as they are. But spoiler alert, they're bad. Things are really bad. 1021 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, it's Chris Hand for my friends at United Structural Systems. You know them as USS. Now, I'm still kind of new to WTN, but like you, I've heard these USS commercials on Super Talk for years. And recently, when I got to sit down with these guys, I realized they're the same people that I've heard about. Honest, hardworking, intelligent, and just all around a good crew of people who you can trust to come over to your house and give you an honest answer about the work that they can do for you. So what can they do for you? Well, if you're noticing water in your crawl space, if you're noticing wet basement walls, cracks in your basement floors, that's your house trying to tell you something. You could have foundation issues. You might need your crawl space encapsulated. Well, that's something USS can do for you, and you should give them a call to check it out. 615-488-7855. When I had a critter in my crawl space, I didn't know what to do after going down there. I was like, man, I got to get some work done down here. And then I realized I do know what I need to do. I called the guys at USS, and they're coming up with a custom solution for my home, and they can come up with a custom solution for your home. They have 25,000 satisfied customers. I'm confident you will be satisfied as well. So call USS today, 615-488-7855, or all of your info's online at ussTN.com.
Millions of Korean-made cars under recall. Owners expect letters in the mail from the dealer. The U.S. Army private who ran away into North Korea is back in U.S. custody. Speaker of the House Kevin McCarthy explains why it's President Biden's fault if the federal government shuts down. These stories and more at 10:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It's bad, Weaver. It's all bad.
It's bad, man. I'm telling you, boys, it's bad.
We got a bunch of texts saying Yeah, that woke me up too. I had one guy said, Ken made me duck all the way over here in Cowan, Tennessee. 0180 and said, yeah, I totally cranked up my radio because of Ken. LOL. Still not good, though.
Yeah, that traffic accident that brought on it's bad. It's no longer bad.
Okay. It's just a little bit better now.
Yeah, it's just a 1 minute delay now.
I have never heard you say it like that. I was like, oh no, what is about to happen? What did I miss?
I don't know why I did that.
It was good. I liked it.
I mean, we all were paying attention.
Everybody, I mean.
It was so bad, it was good.
The TSL went way up. That's time spent listening for those of you keeping score at home. Listen, we've been talking about all sorts of stuff today. We were talking about Bob Menendez, the absolute slime ball from New Jersey, who allegedly had child sex slaves. His doctor has now been raided by the FBI. I think that the Menendez story is one of the most interesting ones happening right now because it mirrors a lot of what we see in the Biden crime family. Influence peddling, sex crimes, bribery. Weird, just Democrat things, So I think that's a story that we definitely need to keep an eye on because as more is coming out about Hunter and the laptop from hell and more is coming out about Bob Menendez, it's going to be interesting to see how the Department of Justice prosecutes old Bob and how the Department of Justice prosecutes Hunter. It's fascinating to me. In the House Oversight Committee, in case you missed it, they have released and received new wires that say $250,000 were sent to Hunter Biden. He received them, and the address that he used as a beneficiary address was the same one that Joe Biden resides at in Delaware. Weird. Joe had no idea what was happening. It's also the same house where there was classified documents in the garage right behind the Corvette. It was a locked garage, but there were classified documents in there. So money is being sent to that house while Joe Biden is running for president. Classified documents are in that house while Hunter Biden is there, listing it as an address, living there. And it's all a coincidence. It's a conspiracy nothing burger with no evidence, right? Absolutely no evidence. It's fascinating. We have more stories that we need to get to. Kamala Harris was on PBS NewsHour. I want to play some of the highlights from her. Plus, new stuff is coming out on Fauci in the CIA. This is fascinating. The Oversight Committee released new documents that Dr. Fauci was potentially influenced by the CIA during the COVID-19 origins investigation. We're going to cover all of that. Plus, your texts, your calls, and another story that I want to get to is we have some stuff on the border, and we also have big city crime. Target is closing stores, CVS is closing stores, and then there's a Chicago guy who had a tow truck, and he's been showing up to car wrecks and telling people that he's going to tow their car out of there, and he's actually just stealing the cars.
Oh my!
Wow.
Hey, modern problems require modern solutions, right?
Oh.
There's a lot of crazy stuff going on. Oh, and San Francisco has pirates now, too.
Arr.
No, like literally like homeless pirates that are robbing people on boats.
Whoa.
Yeah, so just Democrat things. We'll cover all that coming up on Super Talk 99.7 WTM right now. Ken Weaver and the news.
.30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Again, some of us under more of a risk than others for severe weather today, mainly north of I-40. Also, just in from Murfreesboro, there is a burn ban in effect for the city of Murfreesboro, also Rutherford County, effective immediately. It's going to stay in effect until we get enough rain to cancel it. Full forecast in 2 minutes. Hyundai and Kia recalling nearly 3.5 million cars in the U.S., telling owners to park them outside due to the risk of engine compartment fires. Dealers are going to be sending owners letters in the mail to learn how to get those repairs free of charge. Travis King, the U.S. service member who crossed into North Korea this summer, back in the U.S. custody. King crossing into North Korea from the demilitarized zone while he was being sent back to the U.S. to serve out a prison sentence for assault in South Korea. And Speaker of the House Kevin McCarthy says the Senate stopgap bill to avoid a government shutdown doesn't have a chance in the House because it includes billions of dollars for Ukraine, nothing for the illegal immigration crisis at the southern border, and he blames President Biden.
If he wants to sit and hide in the White House and put government into a shutdown, that's on him. But that's the wrong thing to do.
That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. What's one of the biggest mistakes that I find that investors make? Well, it's typically buying based on past performance. We look at our 401k, we try to decide which fund should I buy, and tend to look at historical past performance over 3, 5, and you even hear investment advisors telling people to look at 3, 5, and 10-year track records. Problem is that what do markets do? They go up and they go down. Well, where did this have a great past performance? Here to here. So we end up buying high. We found that there was one study back in 1986, and it was called the Brinson-Hooden-Biebauer study. And they were looking at what drove investment returns more than anything else. And the study sort of looked like this. They said, stock selection, about 4% of investment differences were due to stock selection. About 2% was due to market timing differences. Asset mix, asset allocation, that was the big deal. Now, what they found, which was fascinating, was that when the pension plans engaged in these two activities, in one study it showed that 100% of the time, investment returns were lower and it increased risk. Not something you want when you're an investor. So this is something that we teach investors to help them sidestep some of these issues. Now, if you want to learn more about our approach to investing in financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call. Or you can call 615-851-1950.
Hey, it's Chris Hanford, Jeff Eddy's Efficient Heating and Cooling. It's that time of the year in Tennessee where the weather is just absolutely bipolar. We got hot days, we got cold days, so you're flipping from AC to heat. And if you're finding yourself with an issue with your HVAC unit, it's time to call Jeff Eddy and his crew. I mean, it can be so hard to find somebody that you trust with these large home repairs. And don't get me wrong, this HVAC stuff is a large home repair. And if you call the wrong company, they may just pressure you into replacing your HVAC unit when you could have just replaced a part just as easily. That's why you need to call Jeff Eddy and his crew. They're a small company, but they have big service and even bigger results. And I trust Jeff and his crew to do what's right because they've proved it time and time again. And while that other company may try to pressure you into replacing your system because they make more money that way, well, Jeff is just going to walk you through every option and scenario so that way you can make an informed decision. That's the Jeff Eddy difference. And with Efficient HVAC, they offer up to 18 months, same as cash financing on your next unit. They're an Elite Pro partner with Rheem and a Diamond contractor with Mitsubishi Electric. Go to efficienthvac.net or call 615-784-4424. (10:36) on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. Kamala Harris was on PBS NewsHour. You know, that state-funded propaganda channel known as PBS. Paid for by you and me. Don't you love it? You love PBS, don't you, Mac?
Back in the day, PBS used to be good, right?
I'm old enough to remember PBS used to be pretty good.
Yeah, PBS used to be solid.
Yeah, now PBS Kids just pushes all sorts of wild stuff.
PBS, Pretty Bravo Sierra.
Yep. Pretty much. Well, Kamala Harris was on there doing the old interview, trying to repair her reputation with people because nobody likes her. It's the weirdest thing. I don't know why. Nobody knows why. It's just like one of those unsolved mysteries, but nobody likes her. It could be anything. We don't know. But she was asked about the UAW strike, and she basically said, don't worry about your fears on the shift to electric vehicles.
It strikes me that the shift to electric vehicles, which is a major point of contention in these contract talks, it's almost as if the administration's two goals are colliding. On the one hand, fight climate change. On the other hand, build out the middle class by supporting unions. And yet we know that when it comes to actually building electric vehicles, it requires less labor, and many of those jobs are non-union jobs.
I would suggest to you that perspective that some people have is grounded in a very old false choice. You can do both. And that is our perspective. We can do both. And that is about supporting, again, the importance of understanding the value of work and that it should be compensated commensurate with its value, and what we must do to invest in our economy, invest in innovation, and take on one of the biggest crises the world has ever known, which is the climate crisis.
I didn't know. I didn't know it was that big of a deal. The biggest crises the world was ever known. I mean, like, there was Hitler, and then there's climate crisis. It's crazy. It's crazy. But I think that she says we can do both. I doubt that. I doubt that. There have not been a lot of accomplishments from the Biden-Harris administration where they've proved that they can do two things at once. Joe Biden can't even walk, let alone walk and chew gum. We see him having trouble getting up and down stairs, to the point where they gave him the short stairs to head to the auto workers strike. And he fell again. He tripped going down the stairs again. So I don't think that they can walk and chew gum at the same time. And then she brings up the point where, they deserve to be paid a fair wage. You know what would be a lot easier to be paying people fair wages? It would be easier if we didn't have rampant inflation because of this administration. You know, $20 an hour 15 years ago was a lot better than $20 an hour in 2023. The inflation is absolutely killing everything. Inflation is a country killer. She tells us, we got to pay them workable wages. Okay, that sounds good. Except a livable wage is now what? Are we looking at $30 an hour if you have a family? What's a livable wage if you have a couple kids in a one-income household? It certainly isn't the fight for 15 anymore. And those are all because of your economic policies in the Biden-Harris administration. It's unreal. She was asked about Joe Biden's impeachment inquiry as well.
Also on Thursday, House Republicans are going to open their impeachment inquiry into President Biden with their first impeachment hearing. What's the administration's approach, the administration's strategy for dealing with that House Republican effort?
Well, I think that we are very clear that we're not going to be distracted by political games, and we're going to stay focused on what we've been doing.
Well, it's easy to stay focused on what you've been doing, and what you've been doing is absolutely nothing. I'm glad that she's not going to be distracted by political games. But this is not a political game. This is an actual investigation with actual evidence. They'll tell you it's a nothing burger until the cows come home, but we just saw today $250K being wired to Hunter Biden with the address that's Joe Biden's Delaware home. Weird. What a coincidence. That must be one of those no evidence things that they're talking about. I'm glad that they're not being distracted from their priority list of doing nothing for the country. Kamala Harris, the best female vice president we've ever had, ladies and gentlemen. The best female vice president ever.
Looking at all of the issues in your portfolio, abortion, voting rights, immigration, now gun safety, these are the most, as you well know, fraught issues, difficult for Democrats to gain traction in Congress. There's been no movement on abortion. There's been no movement on voting rights. There's a migrant surge at the southern border. How will gun safety be different?
Well, I'm gonna disagree with you in terms of the premise.
Yeah, she's going to disagree with you. There's been a lot of movement. It's just been the opposite way the Democrats want it to go, except for the border. I think they want the border wide open, so that's moving in their favor. But it says looking at all these issues in your portfolio, and it's a thick portfolio of issues, you guys. It's a heavy portfolio. He goes, there's been no movement on abortion. Yep, there hasn't. It's a non-starter. Roe v. Wade is gone. Hallelujah. There's been no movement on voting rights. Nope. But we see them trying to heighten the fear for the pandemic to push mail-in voting and ballot harvesting once again. And then he says there's a migrant surge at the southern border, and I would argue that that's the progress the Biden-Harris regime wants. The migrant surge at the border. That's what they want. Literally. And the Biden border is absolutely crumbling. And polls are showing record bipartisan opposition to the Biden border. A ton of new polls have come out showing that people on both sides oppose President Joe Biden's wealth-shifting open border policies. This is from Breitbart. Biden's bad numbers are expanding the GOP's so far unused opportunity to win swing voters by offering a nonpartisan sympathy pitch about the pocketbook costs and civic damage of Biden's migration. Biden got a 23% approval rating for his border policy, according to a September 15th to 20th poll conducted by Washington Post and ABC News. 64% of those polled declared opposition to Biden's policies. That poll shows an 8-point shift since February, when Biden had 28% support and 59% opposition. The opposition was so negative that the Post pollster did not ask or show how many people strongly support Biden's policies, because that number was probably very low. It's unreal. A CBS poll showed that 55% of voters want Biden to be tougher on immigrants trying to cross the border. Is cutting open razor wire and allowing them to walk right in not tough enough for you? Seems like a pretty tough position to take. But that CBS poll, 55% of voters want Biden to be tougher on immigrants trying to cross the border. That was a September 5th through 8th poll that showed just 15% prefer an easier policy. The poll showed 34% approval for Biden's migration policy with 66% disapproval. Then we had an NBC poll of 1,000 registered voters that showed only 20% of voters believe Biden and Democrats will do a better job than the GOP on border security. I would like to meet those 20% of people. Do you really believe that Biden and the Democrats can do a better job on the border? I feel like those are the people that are vote blue no matter who. But I still would want to meet them. They'd probably get angry at you when you bring up facts. 20% of voters believe Biden in this NBC poll will do a better job than the GOP on border security. Crazy. Only 27% say Democrats will do a better job than the GOP on migration. But NBC's September 15th to 19th poll also showed that Republicans have not used the immigration crisis to win support from swing voting independents, who obviously will decide the election. For example, the NBC poll shows that only 50% of voters believe the GOP will do a better job on border security, down from 56% in a September 22 poll. Only 45% believe the Republicans will do a better job on the broader issue of immigration, down from 46% in 22. So those polls are dipping a little bit. I would want to know who they're polling. Are you doing that in New York City? GOP leaders and their donor-funded campaign groups mostly spotlight migration problems to help turn out GOP-based voters, not to win more voters from the Democrat Party. But we're going to see a lot of these swing voters in states like Arizona, New Mexico, Texas say enough is enough. It's time to fix the border. The ABC and NBC polls were posted as the divided House GOP legislators are trying to draft a spending plan for 2024. Most important divide is whether GOP leaders should use Biden's poor ratings to fight the Democratic effort to smuggle more migrants into Americans' jobs, housing, school, hospitals, and political priorities. But now, another new poll is coming out. Rasmussen is showing that most voters want the GOP legislators to engage in the anti-migration fight. 80% of Republicans and 61% of swing voter independents support making border security part of the negotiations for a new spending bill. And it should be. But it seems like Democrats and establishment Republicans are more concerned about funding the Ukraine war than they are about securing our border. Let's worry about Ukraine's border. That'll make America strong. Strongly held opinions are especially important because they're unlikely to change during a political fight. A Rasmussen report showed that 43% strongly favor the inclusion of border security, while 16% of Rasmussen's respondents strongly oppose the focus on border security. Weird. How can you strongly oppose focusing on border security? The strong opposition bloc of 16% includes a quarter of all Democrats, 1/6 of all independents, and 4 in 10 liberals. The 43% of strongly supporters include 47% white, 40% women, 32% black, 63% Republican, 23% Democrats, and it's percentage soup at that point. A mid-September report poll by Rasmussen showed that the rising concern about the impact of illegal immigration on jobs, housing, and school is real. 34% of swing voters say that migration damages local schools, while 7% said schools are better because of migration. Interesting. Again, that 7% has to be the blue no matter who crowd. What do you think? 615-737-9986. 3616 said, we should be shutting the border down. People who should not be here, if they're seeking asylum, they should have stopped at the first country they left, not come from around the world to be here. You're absolutely right. Mary texted in. She said the 20% are the same people who tell me we're a nation of immigrants and have absolutely no idea of what is actually happening. Yep. You're absolutely right, Mary. It's just crazy that it seems like a lot of Democrats still have their head in the sand on this one. This is absolutely one of the biggest issues that we're dealing with as a country, and it doesn't seem like anybody's really serious about fixing it. But here we are.
I mean, how do you make them aware then? Or those moderates that you want to win over in the GOP? I mean,
I think a lot of those moderates sometimes, this is me personally, in those polls, I think a lot of the moderates don't want to answer what they're truly feeling.
I could totally see that.
Because they're afraid of the cancel culture. They're afraid of, who are they standing next to when they're asked the question?
Yep. Who's hovering over their shoulder, seeing what they're going to write down or
100%.
what they're going to.
But Republicans are demanding solutions in this budget battle to fix the border. Are we going to see solutions? I don't know. I believe it's going to get far worse before we get better. 0707 says, we need to separate migration and illegal migration. They are not the same conversations. I agree with you, 0707, but why does the Biden administration shut down the legal port of entry in Eagle Pass and cut the razor wire open for illegal immigration in Eagle Pass? I think prioritizing legal migration is fine. Fix that system. I think that it's definitely an issue. But we need to focus on the problem first before we can get to solutions. We need to stop the porous border from just letting people in. 7527 says the 7% that don't think it's an issue don't have kids and don't care. That could be true as well. It seems like your world outlook does change once you have kids. It certainly did for me. Before I had kids, I was thinking more selfishly, and not even like I was being a selfish person kind of way, but you don't really think 20, 30, 40 years down the road the same way you do after you have kids. And I think when you start thinking about how open the border is, how we're letting in millions of illegal aliens, and how that's going to change the country in 20, 30, 40 years, something needs to be done. Something needs to be done fast. Trump said that he would be deporting in record numbers. And I'm here for that. I think if you came into this country illegally, you should get a swift boot out of the country. 0344 says, we need a military DMZ zone. Completely shut the border down for everything except commercial traffic trade. I think that's a good start. I do. 3887 says, how can you say the Biden administration is not fixing the border? They're just going about it a different way. They're making the country in so bad of shape, whereas people won't want to migrate here. Well, that's one thing to do it. That's one way to do it. Interesting. It's 10:51 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Wayne, I see you on the line. I'll get to your call next. And the myriad of super texts we've gotten at 615-737-9986. Thank you for being a part of the Chris Hand Show. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Nashville police make an arrest in a shootout near a school bus stop that injured 2 kids. This story and more at 11 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN, 1058. We were talking about the border and just how much of a mess it is. I think it's by design by the Democrats. Somebody texted in. I said, we need, Trump said he would do mass deportations. 8980 texted in and said, the optics of mass deportation would be so ugly. The left would have a field day with it. And you know what? 8980, you're probably right. The optics would be ugly. But you know what? That's why I want Trump to get in there. He's the one guy that wouldn't be governing with his eye towards a second term. Optics be damned. Do what's right. If you came in illegally, you should be sent away. I got another text from 8825. She said, as an Asian Indian, it is taking 45 years to come to the U.S. legally. But I could just come through the southern border anytime. And that right there is the problem. What are the optics of making somebody wait 45 years to come into the U.S. legally? It's unreal. It's unreal. I got a text from 0930. Restricting the border to commercial trade only will not work. Close the border to all until the Mexican government stops the flooding. If they can't trade with the U.S., they will comply. Also, penalize anyone who employs an illegal with business killing fines. Sally in Sunnyside. Great comments, Sally. Put the pressure on the Mexican government. It worked when Trump was in office. Let's do it again. 11 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Ken Weaver's got the latest headlines for you.
Eleven o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. We'll tell you about the risk for an isolated shower or thunderstorm today during the full forecast in 2 minutes. Big trouble for owners of some Korean-made cars in this country. Here's Mike Dubusky.
3.3 million Hyundais and Kias are being recalled over concerns they could burst into flames. The companies say leaking brake fluid could cause an electrical short, which could spark a fire even if the vehicle is parked. The recall encompasses 25 separate models in total, including Hyundai Elantras and Santa Fe's, as well as Kia Sportages and Optimas. The companies say dealers will fix the issue free of charge. In the meantime, owners are being advised to park their cars outside and away from structures.
Right now in Nashville, Metro Police say they've arrested the person who injured kids at a bus stop. 22-year-old Sylvester Buford arrested yesterday for that shooting September 11th. And injured a 16-year-old and grazed a 6-year-old as they got off of a school bus in the Cumberland View neighborhood. Police say Buford was in a shootout with someone in another car, both of them recklessly firing shots in the direction of the bus stop, but it was Buford's bullets that injured the 2 kids. That 16-year-old shot in the shoulder, the 6-year-old grazed in the back. Buford's bond was set at $75,000. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy says it's going to be President Biden's fault if the federal government shuts down because there's nothing in this U.S. Senate continuing resolution offer that secures the southern border.
He should finish where the wall is at. He should have remain in Mexico. He's got the Title 42 as well to be able to secure the border and stop moving everybody across illegally.
The other issue, McCarthy says, with the House, it has to do with the bipartisan Senate stopgap deal, giving billions of more dollars to Ukraine. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN 1105. My name is Chris Hand. Find me on Twitter, Instagram, Truth Social. All of them are the same, at Chris Hand on air. Hit the follow button. I will follow back. I'm seeing fun things coming out of Washington, D.C. when it comes to funding the government. Personally, I think we should take 15 days to stop the spread of government spending and just shut that thing down, personally. But I don't know. We got 4 days before the government shutdown deadline, and Kevin McCarthy says we got to fix the border, or there's no more Ukraine funding. To which I think, can't we fix the border and not fund Ukraine at the same time? Like, why do we got to do both? But this is Kevin McCarthy in D.C. about an hour ago.
It was late last night. Thank you for following us. But if you paid attention to what happened on the border yesterday, 11,000 people came across illegally. That's 50,000 just in the last 5 days. And you've got the governor of New York, you've got the governor of Massachusetts declaring a state of emergency. Now, the president can take action. The president can do something here that would really help us be able to keep government open, at the same time secure our borders, and I think that's what he's hearing from a lot of Democratic leaders across this nation, and also here in Congress. With that, take questions.
What specifically do you want Biden to do?
Well, a number of different things. He should finish where the wall is at. He should have remained in Mexico. He's got the Title 42 as well, to be able to secure the border and stop moving everybody across illegally.
How can Biden fix the border wall if he's been selling the supplies that were sitting on the southern border that were going to be used to finish the border wall? Joe Biden has been selling the steel that was set there to continue building the wall, and McCarthy wants him to finish the border wall. Is that realistic, Speaker McCarthy?
Is the Senate's plan a non-starter in the House?
I don't see the support in the House.
You said in there you would not do, you told McConnell you wouldn't do anything on Ukraine without border.
Look, I don't see,
Does that mean if there was border stuff in there, you'd consider Ukraine, or how do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, the way I look at it, especially when you're looking at America, so 50,000 people in the last 5 days. We watch this time and again. Massachusetts, a state of emergency. New York has become the #1 issue, and we're going to ignore that? I think if you want to walk and chew gum at the same time, you've got to deal with the issues before you. I want to deal with disaster, but I want to also deal with the border.
So he wants to deal with the disaster, but he wants to deal with the border. It sounds like Kevin McCarthy is all for funding the war in Ukraine. Am I the only one picking that up? Luckily, we got other guys down there in D.C. who are absolutely against the Senate's bipartisan proposal, which would add, like $6 billion for Ukraine? That's what they're sneaking in. $6 billion for Ukraine in the Senate bipartisan proposal. Luckily, we do have guys down there like Byron Donalds who just aren't having it.
The Senate's bipartisan proposal.
Yeah.
What do you make of it? Would you support that if McCarthy brought it to the floor?
No, that thing is dead over here. Are you kidding me?
Why?
Well, first of all, you continue spending. You have $6.2 billion for Ukraine. They do nothing to secure our southern border. That is just a non-starter. The Senate needs to get real.
The Senate needs to get real. It's a non-starter. That's the latest updates on the government shutdown. It doesn't seem like we're gonna have the government open in 4 days. It's gonna be shut down. Man, that's okay. I don't, I'm all for a government shutdown. And I said that to Andy Ogles. And, maybe I'm desensitized, because I feel like this happens every couple months. In my lifetime, how many times we've had it shut down like 3 times, and like whatever. Like, all right, shut it down. Just shut it down.
Yeah, I think Tim Burchett was on The Drive yesterday. He said it had happened since 1976, I believe, 20 or 21 times.
Yeah.
It's every 2 or 3 years. The longest one was in 2018 or 2019, whatever it was, 30 some odd days.
Shut it down. Shut it down until we can get the single subject spending bills. That's where I'm at. And I agree with the guys down there like Byron Donalds, Andy Ogles, Matt Gaetz. That's where I'm at. Matt Gaetz was speaking last night, and he said the focus needs to be single subject spending, and I absolutely agree with him.
My friends, I am extremely in favor of this rule because this rule moves us onto single subject spending bills. And this is the only way to liberate this House and this country from the scourge of governing by continuing resolution and omnibus legislation. It is an insult to our governing authority to have the Senate lash Ukraine funding to the reauthorization of the FAA, and by the way, every other thing in government. The American people know that in our state legislatures throughout this land, there is a maturity and a seriousness to set a top line, balanced budget number, and then appropriate to each of the agencies of government independently. And the fact that we don't do that is not a bug of the system, it's a feature of the system.
He's absolutely right. It's a feature of the system. This is how the system was built. You know, I did music radio for a long time, and we would have like 8 or 10 seconds to talk, you know, like over our song intro. And the program directors of the radio station would always say, 1 thought per break. Don't make it too complicated. 1 thought per break. You know, you have 10 seconds, 1 thought per break. And I think that single subject spending bills is that in that same line. 1 thought per bill. We don't need to tie COVID relief spending with gender studies in Pakistan. We don't need to tie border security with Ukraine funding. That's all hot garbage. And if they can't get that straight, shut it down. Shut the whole thing down. I mean, am I wrong for thinking that? Let me know. 615-737-9986. 9058 texted and he said, shut it down. I bet all the Congress and resident-in-chief gets paid, though. Yeah, I mean, Congress probably will get paid. However, Matt Gaetz went on record saying that he didn't want to get paid if the government got shut down. And I applaud him for that. Shut it down. Ann says, how about just shut it down to shut it down to just plain stop government from spreading any larger? Yeah, it's way too big. Way too big. 4606. Shut the government down. We got to have Trump 2024. Close the border. 6447. Preach, brother. Our friend Tim said Matt Gaetz says scourge like Seth Rogen on the Green Hornet. 9058. They do it so it makes 1,000 pages and nobody reads it. Yep. That's exactly why. They'll send you a 1,000-page bill and say, hey, we're voting on it in an hour. Perfect. 4576 says, we don't need no water. Let that mother bleeper burn. Yep, shut it down, says 9875. At least the stupid decisions will stop for a while. That's where I'm at. Shut it down. Shut the whole thing down. Because what are we doing? $6 billion in this bipartisan Senate bill for Ukraine? $6 billion. Haven't we given them enough? Is that okay? Can we just stop? Can we stop funding the war in Ukraine? Anna Paulina Luna said, you know, it's complete insanity. Not one more dollar should go to Ukraine. We're $33 trillion in debt. It's the truth. We're $33 trillion in debt. And they want to give $6 more billion to Ukraine in this CR. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Hard pass. Hard pass. There's another story I want to get to, which I think is equally important as shutting down the government. And, you know, it's one of those things where it's like, why was the government funding this? So we've been following the CIA COVID article. We talked about it a couple weeks ago. You know, apparently it was CIA whistleblowers were coming forward and talking about it was the CIA bribing their own COVID-19 origin team to reject the lab leak theories. That's what an anonymous whistleblower reported. Okay. As that's happening, we find out that there's a new allegation. This broke last night from the Select Subcommittee on the Coronavirus Pandemic. They're saying that there are new allegations that the CIA secretly escorted Dr. Anthony Fauci into agency headquarters to influence its COVID-19 origins investigations. Weird. So the CIA has whistleblowers saying that they bribed their own scientists to discredit the lab leak. And now the Select Subcommittee on the Coronavirus Pandemic from Congress sent a letter to Inspector General Grimm that says the Select Subcommittee on the Coronavirus Pandemic has received concerning information regarding the CIA's investigations into the origins of COVID-19. According to the information gathered by Select Subcommittee, Dr. Anthony Fauci, then director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, the NIAID, played a role in the Central Intelligence Agency's review of the origins of COVID-19. The information provided suggests that Dr. Fauci was escorted into CIA headquarters without a record of entry, meaning they didn't want anybody to know about it, and participated in the analysis to influence the agency's review. Our goal is to ensure the scientific investigative process regarding the origins of COVID-19 was fair, impartial, and free of alternative influence. Then they go on to list what they're going to do moving forward. They said the Select Subcommittee's goal is to ensure accountability and transparency. The American people deserve the truth, to know the origins of the virus, and whether there was a concerted effort by public health authorities to suppress the lab leak theory for political or national security purposes. Accordingly, information regarding specific movements of Dr. Fauci throughout the pandemic is reasonable and hardly intrusive, especially considering he's no longer employed by the federal government. He is no longer a protectee of the Inspector General, and we are not requesting any information regarding his current movements. To assist the Sub-Select Committee with its investigation, we request the following documents and information as soon as possible, but no later than October 10th, 2023. Then they have a list. Number one, they want documents sufficient to show any Department of Health and Human Service Office of Inspector General authorized, supported, or otherwise affiliated movements of Anthony Fauci from January 1st through December 31st. They also want to see, and that's to see if he was sent into any CIA-owned, operator-occupied building, including but not limited to the George Bush Center of Intelligence. They also want to see all documents and communications between or among employees or contractors of the Department of Health and Human Services of Inspector General regarding the admittance of Dr. Anthony Fauci into any of those CIA-owned facilities. They want to see all documents regarding communications between or among employees or contractors of the Department of Health and Human Services and the Inspector General's office regarding the CIA admittance or entry of Dr. Anthony Fauci into those facilities, including but not limited to the George Bush Center of Intelligence. And then it goes on. They basically want all these documents providing the whereabouts of Fauci during this time in question. Was he escorted into a CIA facility to influence the investigation? It certainly appears that way. It certainly appears that way. And all of this comes after those revelations from the CIA whistleblower just a couple weeks ago. It was September 12th that alleged the CIA attempted to pay off 6 different scientists if they were willing to change their positions and bury the findings that COVID came from the Wuhan lab. And this is happening while the FBI and the Energy Department have concluded that COVID came from a lab. The CIA, however, remains unable to determine the precise origin of the COVID-19 pandemic. Weird. You know, I hate to put on my tinfoil hat, but it sure smells like a cover-up. It sure feels like they don't want you to know the truth about COVID-19. And we found out from Dr. Redfield, Dr. Robert Redfield, this was testifying in March. Redfield testified in March that not only were we involved in the Wuhan lab, but our tax dollars funded it. We funded it. This is Dr. Redfield testifying in March to the Oversight Committee.
Thank you. Given what we know now and looking at all the conversations in February of 2020 and before the release of the paper, do you think that Dr. Fauci used this paper to hide the gain-of-function research created this virus?
I can't talk about Fauci's motivation.
Do you think that the paper does hide the truth?
I think it's an inaccurate paper that basically was part of a narrative that they were creating. Remember, this pandemic did not start in January at the seafood market. We now know there was infections all the way back into September. This was a narrative that was decided that they were going to say this came from the wet market, and they were going to do everything they could to support it, to negate any discussion about the possibility that this came from a laboratory.
I got 20 seconds.
So it seems like the CIA was involved in all of that suppression. Certainly appears that way. I mean, how much more evidence do we need? Well, I do have some more receipts, and we're going to cover those receipts after we get back. It's 11:20 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Make sure you follow me on Twitter, Instagram, True Social, at Chris Hand on Air. Find Mac Morey there as well, Mac J. Morey 25. Hit the follow button. We will follow back. It's the Chris Hand Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
We'll tell you what Speaker Kevin McCarthy says is going to happen Friday ahead of the potential government shutdown. Coming up at 11:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Is it bad?
Well, it depends on how you look at it, Brother Chris.
Oh, all right. Is the glass half full or half empty, Ken Weaver? We need to know.
I'll put it to you this way. The government's probably going to shut down.
So it's half full. You're telling me it's not that bad. All right. I got a text from 9034. He said, if our government shuts down, will our government continue to send funds to Ukraine? Yeah, actually, that is happening. The Pentagon went on record saying that they will continue to fund Ukraine, and not just the war effort, but their public service workers' pensions, and their firefighters, and basically anybody that needs a check is going to get a check in Ukraine. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. I got another text, 2936. If a government shutdown doesn't stop groceries and gas, who gives a bleep? Yep, well, that's fair enough. Got a text from Sally. Shut the bleeping government down and dissolve it. Yep. Seems like a lot of people don't really have a lot of fondness for the current U.S. federal government. And I can't blame you. I think when you look at what's happening in Ukraine and how we're funding that, but then you look at what's happening on our border and what we're not doing with that, it's unreal. 8557 with a great point. They'll continue to fund Ukraine, but what about our military? Yep, exactly. Dave in Hendersonville, you have a comment on the border. Dave, you're on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. What's up, Dave?
Morning to you, Chris.
Hey, morning. What's up?
They need to shut the border down. They need to shut the government down. Not pay any of them fools up there that are trying to destroy our country. And when President Trump gets back in office, he needs to go to all these cities that they've been sending them to that are in the hotels and these camps, round them up and send them back.
Hey, I don't disagree with you, Dave. Thanks for the call. Appreciate you, man, as always. I had a texter say, the optics of a mass deportation would be terrible. It's like, well, I have a lot of texters that are saying put a DMZ in a minefield down there on the border. I think those optics would be a little bit worse. I don't know. I think if you came in here illegally, you have no expectation to stay here. Is that weird? I don't know. 3690 said, will all the illegals still receive their EBT cards? Probably. That's probably a given. What are we doing? We used to be such a serious country. 6324. Hey, Chris, just throwing it out there. What about Hawaii? How is everyone forgetting them? Well, they're forgetting them because it looked bad for the government, so they memory hold it as quickly as they could. It looked bad for Democrats. It looked bad for Joe Biden, so they just moved on to next current thing. When the hurricane happened in Florida, Biden went down there right away, and I said it on the show. I said Biden is probably so happy there was a hurricane in Florida, so that way he can go be there right away and have everybody forget about the gaffe that was him in Hawaii. I've talked to Mac about this. I try not to get angry on the air. I got angry when he went to Hawaii, and he said that he brought up his house fire and families lost little kids. What a jerk! Just an awful human being, out of touch. Yeah, I don't know. Everybody is forgetting Hawaii. It's super sad.
Yeah, schools on Maui just started opening back up there yesterday, and a lot of the reports are saying, there's still rubble, and they don't want people to look through it right now. And even that death count, Chris, that you and I have monitored, that's been, stated at 103 yesterday. I saw reports now downgrading that to 97.
They're downgrading it?
I don't know.
How do you downgrade that?
I don't know.
You get missing kids.
It's been 103 for weeks, and now I'm here at 97, so I don't know.
It's crazy. I will tell you this. James O'Keefe and O'Keefe Media Group are down there in Hawaii, and they've been doing tons of undercover videos, and it's really, really good stuff. it's a little bit too long for him to play on the air. But if you are interested in Hawaii and what's happening down there, you should definitely check out James O'Keefe and what they're doing with O'Keefe Media Group, which is like, it's crazy how James O'Keefe was Project Veritas, and now O'Keefe Media Group is thriving and moving on, and Project Veritas fires James O'Keefe, and they're out of business. Weird. It's 11:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Ken Weaver's got the latest headlines for you.
$11:30 on the dot this Wednesday morning. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got a burn ban for the city of Murfreesboro and Rutherford County until we get enough rain and conditions improve. Full forecast in 2 minutes. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy rejecting that bipartisan Senate bill that would avoid a government shutdown starting on Sunday. Instead, he says the House...
We will pass a continuing resolution, bring that rule up hopefully on Friday, that would keep government open, but at the same time deal with the border.
Yeah, that Senate version ignores the southern border while giving Ukraine billions of more dollars to help fight Russia. Speaking of which, Tom Sufi Burridge says President Volodymyr Zelensky says his forces are making progress in the east as more U.S. military hardware arrives.
31 advanced American Abrams tanks now arriving here in Ukraine, says Zelensky. Now, that's an important boost, but that number of tanks isn't necessarily a game changer.
And right now in Nashville, Metro Police say they've made an arrest in the September 11th shooting that injured 2 kids who were getting off a school bus in the Cumberland View neighborhood. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. What's one of the biggest mistakes that I find that investors make? Well, it's typically buying based on past performance. We look at our 401k, we try to decide which fund should I buy, and tend to look at historical past performance over 3, 5, and you even hear investment advisors telling people to look at 3, 5, and 10-year track records. Problem is that what do markets do? They go up and they go down. Well, where did this have a great past performance? Here to here. So we end up buying high. We found that there was one study back in 1986, and it was called the Brinson-Hooden-Biebauer study. And they were looking at what drove investment returns more than anything else. And the study sort of looked like this. They said, stock selection, about 4% of investment differences were due to stock selection. About 2% was due to market timing differences. Asset mix, asset allocation, that was the big deal. Now, what they found, which was fascinating, was that when the pension plans engaged in these two activities, in one study it showed that 100% of the time, investment returns were lower and it increased risk. Not something you want when you're an investor. So this is something that we teach investors to help them sidestep some of these issues. Now, if you want to learn more about our approach to investing in financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call. Or you can call 615-851-1950.
Hey, it's Chris Hand for the Dr. Gill Center in Franklin. Now, no matter what kind of pain you're dealing with, you don't need to be dealing with it. Back pain, neck pain, knee, hip, elbow, all of it can be treated at the Dr. Gill Center in Franklin with no pills, no needles, and no downtime. And at the Dr. Gill Center, they've been helping people get back to that pain-free life for over 30 years. Now, so many people think that they're just a chiropractic center at the Dr. Gill Center. And while they do practice chiropractic care, they also have state-of-the-art industry equipment like their Class 5 laser red light therapy and spinal decompression, all to pinpoint that inflammation in your body, reduce pain, swelling, and accelerate healing. So regardless of where your pain is or what your pain levels are, the Dr. Gill Center can help. And they're going to hook you up with a special offer if you're out there suffering with pain and looking for non-surgical solutions. Right now, $49 will get you all of your new patient initial exams, x-rays, and a complete review of findings. So that's less than $50 to find out what's causing your pain and get you back to living the life you should be living. Give the Dr. Gill Center in Franklin a call right now and begin your journey in becoming pain-free. 615-882-4838. That's 615-882-4838. And tell them Chris Hand told you to call. Don't take a pill. Call Dr. Gill. 11:36 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. I was talking about Dr. Fauci, old Anthony. And this is I think the guy needs to go to jail, personally. I do. Just a slime ball. I mean, no matter how you slice it. And maybe he may. Interesting stuff coming out of the House Oversight Committee. This is what's happening. Let me break it down for you. They are now revealing new allegations that Dr. Fauci potentially influenced the CIA COVID-19 origins investigation. Select Subcommittee on the Coronavirus Pandemic Chair Brad Winstrup, a Republican out of Ohio, has revealed new allegations that Dr. Fauci went to CIA headquarters to influence its COVID-19 origins investigation. This revelation comes on the heels of recently acquired whistleblower testimony alleging that the CIA potentially skewed its COVID-19 origins review by offering 6 analysts significant financial incentives to conclude that the result of its investigation was inconclusive. And apparently, Dr. Fauci was present at the CIA while this was happening. And allegedly, Dr. Fauci prompted the drafting of the Proximal Origin, the infamous paper that was used to attempt to disprove the lab leak theory. It lends credence to heightened concerns about the promotion of false COVID-19 origin narrative by multiple federal government agencies. It's crazy to me. So Fauci was working with the CIA to say it didn't come from the lab. The same CIA who's working with the government to shut you down on the internet when you said it came from the lab. That CIA, that government. It's interesting. You know, everybody says, this is me with my tinfoil hat on. Everybody says COVID was a plan so that way Trump couldn't win the election. And you see things like this and you go, maybe they have something there. And then with the CIA's involvement, I keep bringing myself back to this quote from Chucky Schumer.
You take on the intelligence community. They have 6 ways from Sunday at getting back at you. 6 ways from Sunday. I don't know. Would a pandemic be one of those ways? I mean, we do know that our tax dollars were funding the lab in Wuhan. Dr. Robert Redfield, exposed that much himself.
Seconds left. Dr. Fauci was affirmatively told in an email that NIAID had a monetary relationship with the Wuhan Institute through EcoHealth Alliance. He was told this in January 27th of 2020. Do you think that Dr. Fauci intentionally lied under oath to Senator Paul when he vehemently denied NIH's funding of gain-of-function research?
I think there's no doubt that NIH was funding gain-of-function research.
Is it likely that American tax dollars funded the gain-of-function research that created this virus?
I think it did, not only from NIH, but from the State Department, USAID, and from DOD.
So we funded it with our tax dollars. We funded the Wuhan lab. The same lab that the CIA allegedly
said, "Hey, we'll pay you money if you say it didn't come from there." It's interesting, guys. It's interesting stuff. And it was just last week, I believe it was, Matt Miller, a State Department spokesman, just absolutely freaked out when a reporter asked how much taxpayer money went to the Wuhan Institute of Virology and its collaborators. That's what this sounded like.
Much money went from USAID to the work at Wuhan and to their collaborator, Ralph Barrick at the University of North Carolina, to collect and make coronaviruses that are weaponized, that are more deadly.
So I, first of all, reject the implicit accusation in that question, and I do not have at my I do not have at my fingertips the particular details of USAID.
Are you saying for certain?
Go ahead.
Are you saying for certain that no USAID money went to the Wuhan Institute
I've
of
answered the
Virology?
question. Go ahead.
No, please tell me. Are you stating that no USAID
I will
money
say
went?
I am happy to take questions from those in this audience. I'm happy to answer them. I appreciate that they treat every person in this room, including myself, respectfully. I called on you. I'm now calling on someone else. Go ahead.
Me respectfully, please tell me, what are you denying?
Go ahead,
What
please.
is your denial?
Go.
It's a non-denial denial.
So he just, Matt Miller, the State Department spokesman, just freaks out, doesn't answer the question, but it's a question that we all pretty much knew the answer to. Our tax money, according to Dr. Robert Redfield, went to the NIAID, which then went to the Wuhan Institute of Virology and its collaborators. How much money? The world may never know. But it was in the Tucker Carlson interview with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. that they talked about bioweapons. They talked about biolabs. He talked about the CIA's influence in all of those aspects. He talked about Dr. Fauci's influence in creating bioweapons. And Robert F. Kennedy Jr. said the reason Fauci is the most highly paid employee of the U.S. government at the time was because of the bioweapons program. Just interesting. Interesting stuff. And now Fauci is being called out for his role in the cover-up. I personally think there was a cover-up. I personally think that, yeah, our tax dollars funded it, and there's receipts to prove it. You don't get that flustered the way Matt Miller of the State Department did if you weren't doing something wrong. You don't freak out like that. And again, Redfield testified to all this in March during the COVID origins hearings, that not only did it come from the Wuhan lab, but that our tax dollars funded it. And it was 2021. The Intercept reported that NIH documents provide new evidence that U.S. funded the gain-of-function research in Wuhan. This is like another one of those news stories that it doesn't feel like news because it's something that we have known for a long time. We've known a lot of this stuff. It doesn't feel like this is new news. It just feels like it's now coming out. And personally, I want to see these people held responsible. I think bioweapons should be an absolute war crime. And I think Fauci should be held accountable for that. Now, was it an intentional release or was it an accident? I think we need to get to the heart of the real question here. Because we haven't even been able to get through where it came from yet to be able to have the answer in the question about was it intentional or not. You know, they've been denying that it ever came from the lab. They've been censoring us on the internet for saying that. No, it came from bat soup. Oh, okay, cool. You don't get censored off the internet for that. But you were getting censored for saying it came from the Wuhan lab. This is... I got a text from 4431. He goes, is this the same CIA that took JFK out? The same one that fixed hundreds of elections around the world, including our own? That CIA? Oh, phew. Ooh, spicy take. Spicy. But I do worry. Todd texted in. He said, Fauci is a traitor who had a direct hand in this. killing hundreds of thousands and injuring so many more, corrupting medical systems. He should be tried for treason and anyone else attached to that. How can that be denied at this point? The funding came from our tax money through the NIAID, then to Wuhan. The virus came from Wuhan, killed hundreds of thousands, injured so many more, and it created an absolute distrust between Americans and the medical community. It did. No matter how you slice it, whether you were, worried about COVID, whether you weren't worried about COVID, whether you were pro-vaccine, whether you were anti-vaccine, that divide wasn't there before the pandemic. Now you have so many people. I mean, this pandemic was crazy. I had family who weren't allowed to go to their parents' house for Thanksgiving because they weren't vaccinated. Like, none of this would have happened if we weren't funding the people that created the virus and the gain-of-function research in Wuhan, and we were funding it. 5198 texted in, accident or intentionally? Yep. It just seems like we're now just starting to get to the bottom of this, and the stuff that's coming out doesn't feel like new news. It just doesn't. I mean, it was 2021. NIH documents provide new evidence that we funded the research, the gain-of-function research. And the receipts are there. Understanding risk bat coronavirus emergence grant notice. Yep, we sent them the money. We did. NIH spokesperson Elizabeth Dietrich said that the agency had considered the research and decided not to restrict it under its own rules. Interesting. They're on record saying that they did it. You can prove it beyond a shadow of a doubt with their own documents. But it was so politicized. I got a text from 4656. We still can't go to my grandmother's house because we've never been vaccinated. I'm so sorry for you, man. It's crazy. Like, what are we doing? Everybody's texting in accidentally or on purpose. And that's where I'm at. And that's where the tinfoil hat that I own always goes back to this quote. You know, if the CIA is involved in bribing intelligence officials to say it didn't come from the lab, I can't help but go back to this Chuck Schumer quote when he's talking about Trump going against intelligence agencies.
You take on the intelligence community, they have 6 ways from Sunday at getting back at you.
Well, I mean, is it weird for me to think, was this a way to get back at him? It certainly changed the way we held our election. It certainly changed the outcome of the election. It crashed the economy. Was this their way of getting back at them? I can't help but think that. I don't know if it's true. But they wrecked the economy. They absolutely used it to their advantage, whether it was accidental or on purpose. Mac, your mom texted in.
Hey, Mom.
She said Fauci should be tried for creating COVID and for all the deaths of people for not being treated effectively thanks to Fauci's terrible and chaotic treatment advice.
Bingo.
You know, hydroxychloroquine was just put out by the Mayo Clinic as a good early treatment. You know, they demonized that. They demonized ivermectin. But yeah. Hydroxychloroquine. Weird. Isn't that weird? All the things that could help you, they demonized. They literally weaponized the entire pandemic to change the entire country. We are not going back to the way we were before. There's no going back from it. So, and they told us I don't know, this stuff really frustrates me because I see how much it's changed the country. And they gaslit us the whole time. They gaslit us from the beginning. They said that, there's no way it came from the lab. It came from the wet market. Well, all right. Fauci's going to have to answer for that. And Fauci's going to have to answer for working with the CIA to potentially influence the COVID-19 origins investigation. And I can't wait. I don't think he's a good guy. And I think that he directly had a hand in this. And I think we're going to get to the bottom of it at some point. Lord willing, we're going to get to the bottom of it. What do you think? 615-737-9986. 8602 says they agree with your mom. Mac.
Heck yeah. Based.
Yep. Based mom. 2986. Plandemic, not pandemic. It's beginning to appear that way. I mean, it's hard to argue with it. Todd texted in, Hillary Clinton and Nancy Pelosi both said, never let a good crisis go to waste. Oh, they didn't let it go to waste, that's for sure. It's 11:50 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Find me offline or online, however you want to put it, off air. I'm on Instagram, Twitter, Truth Social, at Chris Hand on air. Hit the follow button. I will follow back. It's 11:50 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. This is the Chris Hand Show. Thank you for being a part of it. There was a lot of stuff that we didn't get to today. There's a lot of news. Like Joe Biden's dog biting more Secret Service agents. We didn't cover that. That was interesting.
Train your dog, man.
I don't understand how the Secret Service agents don't treat it like that guy in the park.
Huh.
I'm just saying. I mean, it's been more than once. I wouldn't deal with that. And then the other thing we didn't get to, did you see what happened in Philadelphia last night?
Dude, what on earth? Mayhem.
There was like all sorts of rioting. I don't even know what the rioting was for. All I saw was these viral videos of urban youths trying to loot a Lululemon, which I don't understand. I don't understand why you're looting a Lululemon.
Money.
Very
expensive to resell online. That's probably why.
So anyway, these people are like looting it, and the cops are tackling people outside of it.
Wow.
And this lady recording video is just laughing like she's watching like old Seinfeld reruns. Like, how warped do you have to be that looting and people fighting with cops is hilarious?
And I'm seeing this morning, after all of that chaos, an American Airlines flight attendant has been found dead in a Philadelphia hotel room.
Jeez.
So things are going well.
Yeah. Gotta love blue cities. Gotta love it. Blue cities are a mess. I had a whole thing on big city crime that I didn't even get to. We didn't really even dig in on the Chicago guy who's been stealing cars from accident scenes by showing up with a tow truck and just towing away wrecked cars. Move out of cities. It's the only way. We'll talk about that tomorrow. We'll talk about the tow truck guy. We'll talk about San Francisco Pirates and more on the Chris Hand Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.